Here is a classified WordPress real estate listing website which I'm working on currently, and you can see I have the features similar to what we have on Zillow here on this site. So I'm going to also try it out for you to see what we have going on here. Let's say I enter a location, Ibadan, Nigeria, because this listing website is for Nigerian properties. So let's say I enter Ibadan. We see no property being pulled out, although there are actually properties in Ibadan listed here. So I'll extend the distance filter, widen the radius to, let's say, 10 kilometers. And as you can see, we have one result found, that is one property, house for sale, being listed in Ibadan. So let's say I widen the radius to 2. I said to 25 kilometers. I see 2 results found for house for sale in Ibadan. And you can see I can narrow down if I want to with other filter. But first, before I narrow down, I want to show you that if you see we have 2 listings pulled up on the map, then the same number of listings being pulled out on the listing grid as well. So if we check the pin, the property pin, you see we have 3-bedroom bungalow. This one of the property, Ibadan, your state, and this is the 3-bedroom bungalow on the listing grid as well. Then if we also come to the other property, that's this second one. You see newly built 4-bedroom duplex in Oluyole Estate, Ibadan. You see newly built 4-bedroom duplex in Oluyole Estate, Ibadan. So this for houses for sale, and I'm going to use the one for land for sale as our example so that you see how I've built something like this entirely from scratch. So I'm going to go to the back end so that you see everything I have set up for this to be implemented. Mind you, this is not a beginner friendly tutorial. You must have a knowledge of building dynamic WordPress website, which is actually one of the first tutorial on this channel. I'm going to pin the link on this video so that you can view how to set up a dynamic listing website. So let's go to the back end so that you see what I have set up to make this function the way it's working like this. Then I'm going to show you from bit by bit how to place all these widgets accordingly to have this interactive, user-friendly interface. Without further talk, let's dive right in. I had earlier created a custom post type land for sale with Jet Engine, and I've listed some demo land for sale on the website for us to use for this tutorial. Most importantly, when we come to Jet Engine area and we click on Jet Engine, in the modules, make sure you have your map listing toggled on, then save. After saving, the map setting will appear on this tab. Click on map setting. Make sure you have your Google Map API installed here. After validating it and it's successfully validated, then we are good to go to the next thing we have to implement. When we come to Jet Smart Filters, and we click on add new, we can add a new distance location filter. So I'm going to name it land for sale distance location filter. Then I'll scroll down and make sure I select the location and distance filter. Then I name the label, let's say location. Let's also name the active filter label location. That's all we really need to set here. Then I'm going to hit on update. Now, the next thing we are going to do is to create a query that's going to help us, let's say, that's going to use the geolocation of wherever the address be that we put on this distance filter to pull out the listing relevant to that post type. So I'm going to come to Jet Engine, come to Query Builder. So as you can see, I have created other similar queries as well. And I'm going to add a new query. So whichever website you are working on that needs something similar like this, is just the same similar protocol you need to observe. So I'm going to name this land for sale distance geolocation query. So what type of query is this? Is a post query, like I mentioned, is a post type, land for sale. Then we'll need to give this a query ID so that we can use this query ID in connection with other filters and listing widget, which we're going to implement on the land for sale archive page. So I'm going to name this query land for sale. So I'm just going to put an hyphen. When setting your query ID, make sure there is no space and it's all small letters, and you should use hyphen like this is best, or just entirely small letter. All right, with that done, I'm going to scroll down. So it's okay to toggle this catch query. Then I'm going to select the post type which I want this query to work on, which is land for sale. Post status, I can set it to any, but for what I'm working on, I want to set it to only publish post. Now with that set, I'm going to scroll down, come to post and page. There's really nothing to set here. When I come to pagination, I want all the posts to show, so I'm going to set it to -1 to show all the posts. Then now for the geo search, I'm going to, let's say, narrow down to Nigeria. I want to pinpoint this location, Nigeria. Let me narrow down. Let me center it on the capital city of Nigeria. Let's say Abuja. So, okay, this Abuja. Then now for this address field, this is very important. I'm going to scroll back up to this land for sale and open the, let's say, add new land for sale on a new tab. Then I'm doing this so that you see the fields I've created and how that I've created, let's say, a map field to take in the user address location on the map. And this is a new feature implemented by the Crocoblock team, which is a lovely work they've done. It has been a long awaited feature, and the interesting part of it is that it's also implemented on the Jet form builder, the geo map address, so that when users submit, it also gets populated here when they submit a listing from the front end. So what I want to let you know is that the custom field which we are going to get this address key from should be the one that says the one for the map. So I'm going to copy this key and I'm going to paste it here. Then I scroll down. set radius to search around. I'm just going to enter 50,000. 50,000. You can enter any convenience distance for you, but for this 50,000 will work. Then I want the unit to be in kilometer. That's what we use in Nigeria. And this is all I need to set here. If I preview the result query count, you see we have 11 lands for sale according to what I have listed. So I'm going to click on add query, and that's all we need to do in terms of setting query. Now, the next thing we're going to do is to create a map listing item that's going to display the property on the map. So I'm going to click on listing / component. I'm going to click on add new listing item. The listing source is post. The post type is land for sale. I'm going to scroll down to land for sale. Then name it land for sale map listing item. So I'm going to create listing item. I'm going to bring in a single column section. I'm going to make the column width, let's say 200. Then I'll bring in the image widget. Click on dynamic tags. Select featured image. So it will automatically pull out one of the listing sample to show you what you're doing. So I want this image to be linked to custom URL, and I'm going to click on dynamic tags to set the custom URL to post URL. Then I'm going to add another widget. It's going to be dynamic link. I'm going to bring in the dynamic links widget. So the source is going to be permalink. The label, I want it to be the post title, that is the title of this land for sale. So it gets pulled out. Then I want it to be full width. And that's all I need to do as for the title. Then I'm going to style it. The typography, I'm just going to make it 12. The color, the text color, I'm going to make it black. Hover color, I'm going to make it green. So we have this effect on hover. So with that set, that's just all I need to set here so that users can see the property being pinned on the map. So I'm just going to, let's say, add a bit of box shadow to the column style. Give it a background of white. I already have white stored as my global color, as one of my global color. Give it a box shadow. Then I'm going to give it a border radius of, let's say, 15. And that's all I need to set for the map listing item. So I'm going to go back to our dashboard. Also, I'm going to create a listing item for the listing grid for land for sale. Not to overbear the length of this video, I've hurriedly created the land for sale listing item for our grid widget, and I'm going to show you just what I've done. Here is the featured image of the land. So what I did is to bring in an image widget, set the dynamic tags to featured image. Then this is a dynamic terms widget, and I've set it to one of the taxonomies I created, land use type. While this is the permalink widget, that is the dynamic link which I bring in. Then I set the label to post title, which is the dynamic tags to post title. Then this is a custom feeds. I've used the dynamic meta widget. to bring in the dynamic, to bring in the metadata, and the meta feed here is the land address, and I added the feed icon to signify that this is an address. Then this is the land price, which is also one of the custom feeds created to show users the price for the land. Then I've brought in this section and an inner section, which is a 2-column inner section, just to show the post author. So I'm using an icon list. Then I have a user feed, which I've created earlier using the Crocoblock meta box to bring out the user, the post author, that's a user feed, then the date which the post was listed. And that's how I've been able to set up this land for sale listing item. So I'm going to hit on publish. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, okay, I should do a full lengthy tutorial video of how to create a classified real estate property listing website completely from scratch, so that you can know every nitty-gritty of how to create a website like this. If you are such kind of person, put on the comment section of this video full tutorial. If I get as many comments saying full tutorial, I'm going to take my time to create a lengthy tutorial of how you can do something like this completely from scratch on WordPress. So let's go over to the land for sale archive page and see how we can implement our distance location geo filter with the listing grid as well. I've created a land for sale which we'll be using for our archive page. So just basic hero section, just to, with some high converting text, just to let users peruse through the land for sale and make their decision. So I'm just going to bring in this double column widget. This is going to be for our filters. Then I'm going to bring in, let's say, the map listing first. Map listing widget. So I'm going to drag it and drop it here. Then we're going to fill in the relevant details. So for the listing, remember we created a land for sale listing item. So I'm going to look for land for sale listing item, and here we have it selected. Now the address meta key is going to be the meta key, the custom feed for the property type. So I'm going to go back to our dashboard. So when I go to land for sale, let's say add new, we're going to get this key for the land map address, and I'm going to paste it here. So we see this, we have some properties being put out in different locations. Then we'll continue with our settings. Make sure you toggle use latitude and longitude address meta feed. Then just leave it as it is. Then when I scroll down, I'll leave the map height to 500 as it is. Post type, I want post number. I'm going to set it to, let's say, 600 for future use. Automatically detect map center, I'll leave it as toggled. You can add custom map style, maybe from Snazzy Map. You can get a custom CSS map style and paste it here for your desired map. But for now, I'm going to stick to this. Zoom control, I'm going to toggle this on. Full control, I'll leave it as toggle. Street view control, I'll leave it as toggled as well. I'm going to click on map centering as well. I'm going to toggle it on. For the marker, I'm going to use an image. So I'm going to bring in an image marker. I'm going to use this. So we have this our own image marker there. So I'm going to make sure I deal with other settings as well. Now for map clustering, I don't want it to cluster the marker. So I'm going to untoggle it. So I don't want the markers to be clustered, like it grouping it according to the location. So I want to actually see all the panes scattered here on the map. Now scroll down to the custom query. Now this way we'll use the query we created for land for sale, which has the GeoSearch query filter as well. I'm going to toggle it on, select the query, then it's going to be land for sale distance geolocation query. That's this one. I've selected that. Now that's very important we do something like that. Now importantly, we need to come to the advanced field of this widget, then set the CSS ID to land for sale. This is very important, that the same query ID key we gave to the query we created is also the same ID we are giving for the CSS ID. This is very important, especially when it comes to page navigation. Let's say when you are adding navigation to the post, then also if you are creating a home page where you will need to redirect users from the search filter on the home page to the archive page, just like what I have here, you really need to set this CSS ID for the widgets. So as you follow on, you see how I implement what I'm saying. Now the next field I'm going to bring into this place is another section. Let's say I bring in a 4-column section. So I'm going to stretch it to full section width. I'm going to make this column width 15. Then the next column width is also going to be 15 as well. Let me actually start from the left. 55. Now this is funny. I have to use the long way now to drag this out. So I'm going to drag this out. Let's make this 55. So I'm going to make the rest 15. So these other columns are going to contain our other filters for narrowing down the result search. For this first column, I'm going to bring in the distance location filter. I'm just going to type location. So I have the location distance filter here. I'm going to drag it into this place. Then I'll select the filter we created, land for sale, distance location filter. Now it's asking this filter is for what? So for now, we're going to say this filter is for the jet engine maps. So anytime we use this filter, we are telling it that the filter result should affect this map. That's what it's saying. Apply type, we want it to be Ajax, that is, it should generate the result without reloading the page. So Ajax is good. So as soon as any entry is made, we should see the results being pulled out without having to reload the page. So apply on is going to be value change. Then the placeholder text, I can say something like this: enter city, zip code, state, or neighbor state, address, or neighborhood. So I'm using this because this is applicable to this site. You can enter whatever is relevant to yours when working on a project as this. Now, for this, we'll leave it at default. Now, for the query ID, make sure you set the same query ID key which you had used when creating the query for land for sale. So I'm going to say land for sale. Now, because what we are going to use this for is not only for the map listing, but for the listing grid as well, we're going to enable the additional providers and we're going to add new item. The additional provider is going to be Jet Engine because we're going to make use of the listing grid widget. Then we set the same land for sale query ID to this. So for the sake of the pagination as well, I'm going to come to the CSS ID, make sure I set the same query key to the distance location filter. So with that set, I'm going to bring in other filter as well, which I had created. Before that, let me bring in the listing grid widget. I'm going to put it under this map. Listing grid. So drop it right there. Then I'm going to look for land for sale, the grid item. So I have land for sale, listing item grid. So it has automatically bring out what we have listed on the site. Now I want the post number per page to be somewhat around 24. But for now we have a total listing of, let's say, 11 according to the result query count we did earlier, which is exactly what we have here. So let's consider other settings we need to do. I'm going to set the listing to a masonry grid. Then custom query, I'm going to select the same custom query we selected for land for sale, which we created when we began this video. Land for sale distance geolocation query. Now I'll come to the advanced, make sure I set the same query ID key for the CSS ID. Now let's publish and preview what we have going on for now. So let's say I enter Lagos, enter location Lagos. So I have Lagos, Nigeria. If I click on Lagos, Nigeria, you see we don't have any listing being pulled out and it's saying no data found. Now, because it's a distance geolocation filter, we can increase the search radius. So when I increase it to 10, we see we have one listing being pulled out for Lagos. Let me increase it to 50 kilometers and you see we have up to 6 listings being pulled out. Now I'll go back to our editing area. I'm going to bring in an inner column section. Then bring a heading feed. I'll make the tag header H6. Now I want this to pull out the number of the query result count. So when I click on dynamic tags, I'm going to scroll down to query result counts. Click that. Select query is going to be land for sale distance geolocation query. So as you can see, it's pulling 11 results at the total query result count. So I want it to say this so number of results found. I'm going to give it a spacing before that. So we have, let's say, sorry, it's supposed to be after, not before. So I'm just going to cut this text and paste it here. So it should say 11 results found. I'm going to style it, make the width just, let's say, 500. Vertical alignment of the inner section to middle. Then I'm going to bring in another filter widget, that's the sorting widget. That's the sorting filter, and I'm going to put it here. So I'll select the filter for jet engine. So it's going to be on value change IaaS type. Then make sure it is land for sale. The query ID is set to land for sale. Sorry, let me close this out. Query ID land for sale. So I have selected the filter type for jet engine, that's for this listing. Then the additional provider I want it to be for the map. Whichever you set first, make sure both are implemented in a case scenario like this. So I'm going to copy out this key. I'm going to copy out this key and make sure I apply it to the CSS ID as well. So I'll come to the advanced, apply it to the CSS ID. Then for this, I also make sure I apply it to the CSS ID. Then let's test again what we have. So when I enter, let's say Lagos again, Lagos, Nigeria, and I increase the radius, so you can see it senses results found out of what we have in the listing there. So, and we can actually sort according to this filter, let's say by title. So it automatically arrange the title accordingly. So now let's search by another location and see what we have. Let's say I'm searching by Ibadan. So we have 2 results found, and that's just it. Let's go ahead and add other filter items to it as well. So I'm going to come down to the JSmart filter to create more filters for the land for sale. So I already have some filters created, let's say for pricing. So I want to create some checkbox filter. So this is going to be land for sale, land use type, checkbox filter. So I select checkbox. So the land use type is a taxonomy. I'm also going to create for the property listing status as well. So when I scroll down, I'm going to select the data source as taxonomies. The taxonomy, I'm going to slide down, make sure it is land use type. So I want to show empty terms. Then operator union is okay. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm seeing other settings like use custom query variable, use default filter value. I won't touch those. I'll just say land use type. And I'm also going to say land use type. Is going to be the label and the active label name. So I'm going to click on update. I'm going to create another filter for the location checkbox so that they can check many locations at a time. So the location in my own case is state check box filter. Let's select this. Going to scroll down to taxonomies. Then it's going to be location according to the taxonomy name I have. Then I'm going to say I want the filter label to say state. Then the active label to be state. Then I'm going to update. I'm going to create our last filter which we will use. Add new. and this is going to be property listing status. I think I already created a property listing status filter. So what I'm going to create is land use type. I've already created a property listing status filter, and it is a select field. So what I need to create is land use type select filter. So we need to hit on select filter type. I'll not toggle hierarchical, going to be taxonomies. Then I'm going to go down to land use type. Land use type. So the other filter we created was land use type for checkbox filter. This one is for select filter. Land use type. So I've copied this. I'm going to paste it here. I'll update this filter. Now we'll go back to our Elementor area. Let me adjust this. So we'll go back to Elementor area and we'll make use of the filter. So I'm going to reload this page so that we can make use of the filters we just created. So right now I'm going to bring in the select filter. Then I look for the filter location as property location state filter. This filter is for jet engine. The query ID, recall, is land for sale. So I'm going to copy this key, then add additional provider, and this is going to be for the map. Select provider, jet engine maps. I'm going to paste that query ID key here, go to advanced, paste it on the CSS ID as well. Then I'll copy this, then paste it here. Change the filter from location, it's still a select filter, but this is going to be for land use type. Land use type select filter. So we have the land use type select filter. Then what other ones can we add? I'm going to bring in an active filter. So I want this active filter to be in a section inside this column. So I'll delete one of these column of the inner section. Delete, I only need one. I'll drag it in here. Then I'll duplicate this. So I'm going to delete this active filter. I want to put the checkbox filter for land use type. Checkbox filter for land use type. This is going to be for jet engine. I want to show the filter label, so I'll leave the apply type and apply on as they are. Make sure I paste the right query key. So land use land for sale is the query ID. So I'm going to copy that as well. Add additional providers. This is going to be for the jet engine map. Scroll down. So by the time you get here, you'll be gathering the full gist of what we are trying to do here, and this can be applicable to any filter you want to include here as well. So let's add the last filter we created, which is the land use type, which is the location checkbox filter. So I'm going to duplicate this other checkbox, then make an edit, remove this filter. So we'll look for location or state. We actually name it state checkbox filter. So all the settings we did for here are automatically carried to this one since it's a copy of this. So one other filter I'm also going to bring in is going to be the, let me duplicate this inner section again. So I'm going to delete this and look for the range filter. Range filter. So I created range filter for the price. So I'm going to bring in jet engine as the filter for, that is for this listing grid. I'm going to show filter label, paste the query ID, scroll down, add additional providers. Is going to be jet engine map. I'm going to paste the query key, come to the advanced. For the CSS ID, I paste the same query key. So although I've not styled it, I'm going to test what we have. Now, let's say I filter with the land use type. Let's say I check for agriculture. You see we have two results for agriculture. So let's say I filter for Abuja. You see I have one result found for Abuja. And I can add other states as well for the checkbox. And you see when I added Lagos, we have 8 results found. So by the time I add Oyo State, you see we have 10 results found. And we can filter by price. So let's just say we want within the range of 1 million. So something around 5 million. You see we have it reduced from 10 back to 8. So within a minute, I'll come back and style this. I'll come back and style this up. Then we can test again. Haven't styled it. We are going to test the form once again. So I'm going to scroll down. So let's say I enter Lagos, which is where most of the listings are in this our test. So let's say I say Lagos, Nigeria. We see no results being found because the actual center of Lagos, Nigeria has the property listed, let's say some kilometers away from the Lagos center. Let's say I widen the radius to 25 kilometers. You see that from this center of Lagos, we have, let's say, 5 results found. Now, another thing you will notice is that when you scroll down to our listing grid, we have the same number of results being pulled out. That's 5. And that's actually the crux of this tutorial, a map listing with the grid widget and the filters, the distance location filter working alongside with it. So let's say I try to use another filter to narrow down to check for residential land listed. You see we have 2 results found, and when we scroll down, you see the same. So this is a mixed land, for example. It has the it's a mixed land, is both for agriculture and residential. That's why it's being pulled out as well. So let's say I search for commercial. You see that the mixed land is also being shown because it's a mixed land, is suitable for commercial as well. So we can filter also by this side filter, which has the land use type. Let's say I decide to click on residential. Now, this narrows it down further, down to this one, which contains residential, even though we have a filter here for commercial. So this filter by the left helps it to narrow down more. And let's say we actually emphasize that it's Lagos State. You see that emphasis is laid on it because we're already on Lagos search. And you see that our filter pretty works well with the distance location filter, the map listing, and the listing grid. How were we able to achieve this? The main instrument for this is using the query which we created for this post, land for sale, and we gave it a query key which we were able to use to attach all of these filter widgets and the listing widgets together. So that's pretty it.